Hey, so you're about to interview our candidates. We want to make sure that you're totally successful in this interview process, so we thought we might give you some tips. The number one thing we like to tell our clients is we want that candidate to come out of the interview with you and feel like they would run through a wall to work for your company. So whatever we do in that interview, we want to make sure that they love who you are. Now you get to choose whether you want them afterwards or not, but we want them all to fall in love with you and your company. So a couple of things to make sure that happens. One, when you're communicating about the interviews, let's say we need to cancel them or change the time, make sure that that communication is done incredibly well. Number two, when we set up the interviews, make sure that we are only doing maybe at the majority of 3 people in an interview. Because sometimes when we have 6 people from a company interview one person, it feels like a firing squad and we get very negative reviews from candidates when that happens. So let's keep it to 3 or less in an interview. Also, in a given day, let's not do 8 hours worth of interviews in a day. What we normally find out is that after 2 hours, candidates are really checked out and really aren't putting their best self forward. So try to have the interview time that they're at your company less than 2 hours. And then the next thing we want to make sure that you do is to make sure that when you're asking questions, you're not trying to trip people up. You know, sometimes we are like, we need to ask really tough questions so that we get great answers. But if we want those candidates to come out of that interview feeling like $1 million, feeling like they answered your questions right. That doesn't mean don't ask them hard questions, but make sure you're not asking them just trick questions to trip them up, because they want to feel successful after they came out of the interview. And then the next thing we want to do is make sure that you're on time for your interview, because how we treat the candidates in an interview will really let them know how they might be treated as an employee of the company. And so a lot of our feedback has been that the employers may have not been on time or they may not have given them full attention. So if you can, make sure that the interviews are on time, that somebody greets them at the door with a smile and is ready for them, and that when they sit down for that interview, that you give them your full attention. Meaning that anybody that comes in contact with them has their computer off and is fully attentive with them. Also, if you're choosing other people besides yourself to interview these candidates, people within your company, make sure they're a great representation of who you are and that they love your company. And there's no reason, this is not a time to tell everybody what your company has done wrong, or to tell, you know, the bad side, or try to talk them out of a job, or try to talk them out of wanting to work there just to give them the real answer on the company. Because again, we want them to actually love the company. And why do we do all these things in an interview scenario? You think, wow, they're so lucky to interview with us, and they are very lucky to interview with you. However, this is a candidate market, and so oftentimes the candidates that we send to you will be interviewing with other companies, not through us, but by themselves, for 2, 3, 4 other companies. And it's going to come down to who they want to take a job with. And you want to be in the best place for them to want to take a job with you. And so these interview techniques will hopefully put you right at the top of the list.